All right, excellent. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for the advocacy webinar, the Drug-Free Action Alliance advocacy webinar. I'm going to go through. We have a lot of things going, everything from Statehouse to the federal government, a couple of opiate bills that the senators have wanted us to kind of take a look at, as well as a couple of marijuana issues as well. So we have a pretty full schedule here. So let's just get started here. First thing I'd like to go through is what's going on down at the Statehouse. The House Bill 68, I've been talking about that for the last few months, which is the beer content bill, where it would raise the maximum allowable beer content from 12% to 21% maximum. We are hearing that is not having any legs, and hopefully the idea is also something that is not going to be brought back up. But we're pretty sure that bill is dead. I'm going to talk to some folks in the next couple of days to gauge what they're hearing and things like that. Want to thank everyone who did do some kind of letter or made calls or maybe even spoke to some community leaders. Whatever it is you did to help House Bill 68 kind of meet a very timely demise. Thank you so much, because I think that is fantastic. Again, it goes back to us being able to show that legislators do listen to us, that we do have a voice in advocacy, and in and that people really respect what we have to say. So really excited, and would like to also he's not on the call obviously, but would like to also thank Representative Beakey for all of his work creating that website that he did, and doing some other work within the House to get that bill killed as well. So we're very happy about that. I wanted to bring up a bill that we have not talked about yet, and really it has nothing to do with that, with the prevention or drugs or alcohol, anything like that. House Bill 110, which is a bill to basically create some new rules and kind of stiffen the penalties for failure to stop after an accident. This has been going through the House, and it's now in the Senate. And in one of the hearings on this bill, Senator Sykes tried to slip an amendment in late January, and they basically what it was it would require EMTs, anyone, any kind of emergency medical technicians, to report to law enforcement the identifying information for anyone who is used in the naloxone. And what does that mean? Basically, that if an EMT has administered naloxone, that person, that EMT, would be required to then report that name and whatever kind of information, identifying information, contact information, to the local law enforcement, so that they could have that on record. Now, the rationale was, according to Senator Sykes, was that this could lead law enforcement to more drug dealers. That if somehow you call you call someone who has had to be given naloxone because of some kind of issues with an overdose, so they probably have problems with heroin or some kind of opiate, and a reverse brought out of the overdose, they would obviously have to get heroin from a drug dealer. It's not a legal drug. So that, I guess, is what the rationale is behind what Senator Sykes wanted to do in this amendment. The issue, however, becomes that if you're going to have to be reported, that you're using naloxone, and then law enforcement is going to contact you to try to lead, someone to a drug dealer, I don't know how many people are actually going to be using naloxone. They may weigh those, things and say, you know what, I'm not going to give up my dealer in anything. So it's something that we really I'm a little bit disappointed in the amendment, quite frankly, and I think it also goes back to helping legislators understand, this is not a rest our way out of a drug issue. So, this is something that you might want to consider. It is kind of moving in a fast track. I know that down here in Columbus, we are trying to work with some other partners to get that amendment taken out. Again, we want lives saved, and we don't want anyone to think, oh my gosh, if I use naloxone, then I'm going to be forced to give up, to start working with law enforcement to talk about my drug dealer, which then can cause all kinds of issues as well. So something that you might want to think about and discuss, and again, probably not the best amendment ever, in my opinion. We also have a Statehouse marijuana update. We got marijuana all over the state as far as the policies and those types of things. The House, they're going to have their first hearing on Thursday at the Ohio Statehouse. This is the one where you have a 15-member panel, and that 15-member panel is going to take testimony from folks all around the state. They have, I think, 3 hearings lined up. The first one's going to be Thursday at 3, and then the other 2 are going to be 7 o'clock at night, so folks can get off of work and come to the State House or wherever and testify on this issue. We met with the House Majority Caucus last week about what their process is going to be, what are they looking for. We, of course, pushed that this is something that should be dictated by science and not dictated by a bunch of anecdotes. We know that there are going to be people in wheelchairs and folks who have some pretty devastating diseases, children with issues with epilepsy and all kinds of things. But I think we need to stick to our original talking points, that medicine needs to be determined by science, and for every person that you give an untested medicine to, and it may work a few times. There are many stories out there of where the medicine, because it is not a consistent medicine, actually does more damage, especially with these kids with epilepsy and Dravet syndrome and all of these other seizure disorders that these little kids have. And actual, what I am going to say, because I'm sure I'll be asked about it, is I think we have an obligation to these kids and to these folks, veterans and people with end-of-life issues, to actually give everyone the best medicine that they can have, to not have issues that could crop up later, and something that can be consistent so that every time you know what you're taking, you know that it doesn't have any kind of pesticides that could later harm you, because that's a new lawsuit that's come out in Colorado that 2 people are suing a medical marijuana dispensary because what happened was they used a pesticide that when it's smoked, when marijuana is smoked, it actually turns into hydrogen cyanide, which is a poison. So they're suing in Colorado, the first product liability lawsuit. Again, they were using it so-called medically, and now their medicine is actually more tainted because it lies outside of that scientific and FDA process. The Senate also have been having hearings. I know the first one was in Cleveland. The second one was in Cincinnati. Those are run by Senator Dave Burke and Senator Kenny Yuko. It's more of a public-based. The House will be, from what we understand, there was a kind of a rules meeting. There will be no booing or hissing or clapping or public displays of support or anything like that. It's literally going to be just like any other testimony that you would at the Statehouse. The Senate is a little more loose, and have heard from a couple of folks that it's been a little bit trying for folks who are saying in their testimony, let's keep this based on scientific proof of efficacy and not on just anecdotes. People will cheer, people will boo. I even have heard that one of the senators have been not very kind to our side. So, but this is something we can't back down from. Both sides need to hear from coalitions. They need, I know that there have been board representatives at these things, at the Senate hearings. I know that there have been other advocates that have been, and we can't stop, and we have to continue to have an honest and open conversation, but that medicine is based on science and not on what makes someone feel good. So, I think we continue to stick with that. We have our testimony. If anyone would like to see it, if anybody needs that, we can send that out to folks if they would like to craft their own. We're also going to create a letter to the legislators based on this premise and based on this testimony, and we'll be sharing that as well. So if you would like to use that as a template for the work that you do, please certainly do that. So we have the Statehouse marijuana. Now we've got some marijuana initiatives, and basically these are ballot initiatives going back to the voting population in November. What's going on? Well, there's a couple of things going on. First, there's a marijuana policy project, and they're a national group headed up by, they're funded by former CEO of Progressive Insurance, Peter Lewis, who has since passed away, but his estate has carried on this this organization, and they put an ad on their website that they were going to hire a campaign manager to manage the Ohio campaign to legalize medical marijuana in the Buckeye State. And these interviews were held last weekend, I think the 7th and the 8th, in Cleveland, Ohio. And again, they say that they only want to do a medical piece. And they've also hired a campaign management firm, which sadly enough, and this is how politics rolls, they were the campaign management firm that helped stop issue 3. They were on our side last time, but the Marijuana Policy Project has a lot of money and can buy who they want to buy. So again, this goes back to people trying to make money off of things. And so the campaign management firm, interestingly enough, if you were on the last advocacy call where House Bill 248 was talked about, that group has changed sides and now been hired by the pro-marijuana lobby. So really disappointed. Know the folks there, and it's kind of a touchy subject with me right now. Also, Legalize Ohio 2016 is in a bit of a quandary in what their future looks like. They want to legalize. They want to put an amendment on the ballot in November where they would legalize recreational marijuana. Their founder, Sri Kavuru, who also he wrote the thing. He has been the campaign manager, the spokesperson, everything. About 3 weeks ago, he quit. He quit the agency. So, and his last campaign finance report, they had $286 in their bank account. So this is something that I really, really do. I think that they're, if I were them, I would be very concerned about their future. You have no money, your leader's gone, can you move forward? Collecting those, probably what's needed, 700,000 signatures, all of this kind of stuff. And I I don't know if it can be done, because it takes a very, very, it does take a well-funded effort. It also takes a well-organized effort. And basically, the leader of that group has now went on to, no pun intended, greener pastures. So we have those. Now, there was just one that was the Cleveland Plain Dealer reported about yesterday. It's called a group called ARC Reaction, which is a group made up of Colorado lobbyists and Washington-based businesses have formed to kind of create a responsible Ohio medical edition. So it's basically what you have. The Colorado lobbyists are listed there: Gray McGinnis, Colin Kennedy, and Philip Hayes. They're marijuana lobbyists from the Rocky Mountain State. The political firm they hired is Cully Hall and Struble. They're Washington State-based political firm. They helped get the Washington State resolution passed in 2012, I think. So they have some experience. 2014, sorry. So they have some experience about winning these things, and basically what they have done is they're coming in. They have, it's a business model, based to create medicine, which is, you have profit-based instead of scientific-based. So I think that always causes a problem. And they're basically searching for investors in the Buckeye State. They need $300,000 by February 15th to get things going. Then they're asking investors for another $1.5 million by March 1st, and then another $3.5 million by April 1st, so that they can start paying signature gatherers. And finally, they will need another $20 million to run a campaign to pass medical marijuana in the Buckeye State. So this is again, this goes right back to kind of responsible Ohio, a business model. They're going to call it medical, and the language, for any of these has not been seen yet. Marijuana Policy Project's language, the ARC Reactions language. None of these things have been seen yet. I don't know what they look like. Nobody knows what they look like. So they're trying to form, but we'll see how these go. But again, this goes back to exactly what we said during the last campaign. This is not about anything about social justice. In these cases, this is not anything about medical. This is all about making the rich even richer and creating a market solely based on money and not any kind of medical necessity. So, I think we need to continue to hit home with folks that this is about profit, not about any medicine. Can you imagine if, let's say, I know that Big Pharma gets hammered on a lot, and they are a profit-driven group, but if they didn't have science behind them, if they didn't have any research, they didn't actually put in the research and development dollars, instead only started forcing a lot of these ballot initiatives instead of putting money into science, and quite frankly, it would be a lot cheaper. Putting money into research and development is a very, very expensive thing, but you want medicine based on science, based on research, based on efficacy, all of those things, and not just something that is looks good on a bumper sticker. In addition to that, I had the opportunity to sit with the DEA administrator, Chuck Rosenberg, when I was in Washington last week. I got to sit down for a meeting with him, and the one thing that I kept pushing with him, well, there are two things. One thing that I was pushing was we really need the DEA to release research dollars so that medicines can be studied. They can be developed from compounds within the cannabis plant, and not just this willy-nilly, no science involved type of system that we have in many of the other states right now. He was in total agreement with that. We talked about scheduling and all kinds of other things in regards to those things. And very, very much on board that they need to release more money for research. The other thing that we talked about, per Darryl Brake, I had seen him the night before, on cleaning up some of the issues with drug take-back and some of the issues that law enforcement are having. We talked about that, and they're going to look at that process internally to try to become more supportive of what communities are doing in regards to their DEA drug take-back days and the drug take-back efforts that are going on around the country. So those are a couple of things that we put on his radar, and hopefully that will be something that we'll get some action soon. We have an opiate bill now from Portman. Actually, this Tana DeRay, a member of SPECA, actually was asked to testify by Senator Portman. Did a wonderful job on her testimony, and this actually looks to move, from what I understand, through committee by Thursday, so in 2 days. This is something that there's a pretty comprehensive plan that includes prevention, it includes recovery, it includes treatment, gives more money and more organizational power to the Drug-Free Communities Act, gives more credence and money to local things that are going on. Also creates more educational programs for incarcerated offenders and folks, women who are pregnant. Also pushes naloxone more throughout the states and throughout the nation. I asked his aide yesterday, what are we looking at as far as money? And they've attached currently about $80 million to this nationally, which would have to, I'm sure, go out on some kind of bid process. Some of the other things that that we can see from the CARA bill, there's some veterans programs that would be opiate veteran programs that would be created, peer-to-peer things, recovery, and then creating a task force to really study this issue at the federal level. Pretty comprehensive, and something that we want to be helpful on to get through. So this is one bill that's going through Congress, the Senate committee right now, and hopefully we'll hear more about that soon. This weekend we were actually contacted by Senator Sherrod Brown's office. They also have a bill that they would like to push. I guess they're talking about introducing it tomorrow. It is a bill that's titled "To Support a Comprehensive Public Health Response to the Heroin and Prescription Drug Abuse Crisis." What you have is, for prevention, you have it's a lot of prevention, a lot of education with prescribers and prescribing guidelines. Not a whole lot that I saw. It's a 72-page bill, so I could have missed something. Not a whole lot for community-based strategies or anything like that. The prevention kind of focuses mainly on practitioners. Prescribers would have to take a 12-hour course every 3 years on addiction. So that would be something that would change. Some of the other things that are in this bill, and there is just a ton of money. You're talking hundreds of millions of dollars attached to this bill in his draft. Some of the other things, there would be grants to support syringe exchange programs, a grant program to reduce drug overdose deaths, again, kind of the naloxone piece. There would be, for treatment, treatment would be expanded. There would be a lot more money for treatment. There would be a lot more, again, money for treatment programs for pregnant women. There'll be treatment pilot programs for state agencies as far as substance abuse, evidence-based opioid and heroin treatment, and actually looking at the entire treatment infrastructure. What's interesting was, part of this is on Section 310, there would be a substance use disorder professional loan repayment program. So to put more folks out on the front lines actually doing the treatment, they would get a special, like, student loan, basically, to get their education, to get their credentials and all of those things. So that's kind of an interesting piece of that bill. And then the other couple of things they want to this bill would create a national youth recovery initiative. So high schools and colleges would get a lot more money for folks to go into recovery, and grants to expand recovery support services. So an awful lot of things going on. And also, one of the things we're going to be working on in the next few days is we are going to be looking at, I got this today from Wayne Campbell, who runs Tyler's Life. He lost his son Tyler to an opiate overdose a few years ago. And he sent me an article, which I think we're going to start putting op-eds and letters to the editor together, and kind of doing some community awareness. I would like to meet with a couple of legislators and what they feel about this. Maybe do some preemptive strike before this gets out of control. Basically, and this is where the FDA is makes some questionable decisions. The first one is Zohydro, which is 10 times more powerful than morphine. They approved that, even though their board said, no, do not approve this. This is a much too dangerous drug. They approved it anyway a couple of years ago. The other thing that they just did, the FDA approved OxyContin for children, which is just kind of a crazy thing with such a high issue for abuse and those types of things. I really don't know what they were thinking. This is something I think we really need to kind of step up on. Opiates are not good for young people. OxyContin, I'm not a doctor, but with all of the issues, I would really question the appropriateness of issuing these types of, pretty addictive pain medications for children. This is something I think we're going to write a couple op-eds on. If anybody wants those types of things or wants to see the story, we can send that out as well to folks, and would love to hear your thoughts on those types of things. Didn't know if there were any kind of questions or anything. Nanya had a question, and she says one of the sessions at CADCA focused on the lack of knowledge that prescribers had, and she's wondering if this bill would be a good answer for that national issue, the bill from Senator Brown. And yeah, I think there is an awful lot that could be done with prescribers, and I think this has some good pieces on it to really start giving physicians and other folks in the healthcare field a better idea what prevention is, or what drug addiction is. And one of the things that again, this goes back to, I know that lawyers have to have a half an hour of continuing education on addiction. I don't know what it is for physicians. I know it's not that. I know it's not a great deal that you have to have on continuing education. So to increase that, to help docs and physicians and nurse practitioners and anyone else who prescribe get a better understanding about what addiction is, I think is always a good thing. So that's a great question, and something that I think we I think we have to be on top of. Another question came from Sherry. With a Brown bill address increasing the number of facilities for treatment. We'll have more people working, but will we have a place for them to work and help? That absolutely is part of the Brown bill, is to increase the number of treatment opportunities, both inpatient and outpatient. In fact, I'm having a conversation. Senator Portman asked us to speak with a gentleman from New Hampshire, and we'll speak to him, and he's opening a series of treatment facilities in Southeast Ohio. I forget the name of them, but can get you that if anybody would like to know that. We're going to have a phone call with him. I don't know exactly what it's about, but for some reason, Senator Portman thought it would be a good idea for Drug-Free Action Alliance and these folks to talk. Again, it's a little outside of our spectrum, but we'd be more than happy to discuss, and maybe we can help in some way. Also, really quickly, just wanted to thank everybody that was at CADCA. We had kind of an open session where we talked about what are the needs of prevention in the for the future. What can the state do? What can the director do to really shore up prevention? Get some ideas out there, at the community-based level that can really be helpful to coalitions and other groups that are working locally. Because of that, now we're going to have I'm going to go in and see Director Tracy Plouck, who is Director of OMAS, and talk about some of those ideas. So I'm really, really happy with what we got from that session. And always encourage you, if you have an idea, send it this way so that we can, at least vet it with some folks. And if we don't hear from you, we don't know the local community like you do. We don't know the needs of the local community like you do. So we always have to rely and are always thankful for the suggestions that we get from all of you. This is, we're very, very happy for everyone that we have out there, and just thankful for the work that you're doing. We really are being noticed nationally in regards to marijuana, doing what we've done. We're being held up nationally as being more advanced on the opiate crisis than others. So we really have a lot to be proud of, and it's only because of the work that y'all do at the local level that the nation is noticing what Ohio is doing. So if there are no other questions, I thank you so much for being on this webinar. If you need something, call us at 614-540-9985, or you can always email me, and we'll get something out to you. Thank you so much, and please be safe on this kind of snowy February day. Thanks so much.